the very top of the Jamarat Bridge. Grabbed myself a prime time location at the end of Hajj, obviously. So there's no one here, quite literally. There are just some workers processing the rubbish. That's one of the main walkways for the Jamarat. Loads of empty buses, and the sun setting over Makkah. It's actually a really nice place to come and just think. I want to do a video to conclude all my videos about the Hajj. I originally made them all for my family and for myself to keep a diary, because Hajj is such an intense process. Nobody really remembers what happened and what they thought. They only have a very vague memory of it. This Hajj was the hardest thing that I've ever done, physically and emotionally. It was very difficult. In many ways, it was an incredible experience. To be here with no other purpose but to pray and worship and to think about the Creator is quite amazing. I had a revelation. I learned something completely new. I knew that, but I did not really know that this most difficult of things was done by the Prophet, who performed his Hajj around the age of 60, without air-conditioned tents, without all of this infrastructure that you're seeing around you, without cars, buses, without fridges full of ice cream and juice, without flat roads that take you where you're supposed to be going, without tunnels, without people squirting cold water on you to make you feel better. The Prophet did this in the desert, in the exhausting heat, and I just think that's incredible. I mean, we think a lot about the Prophet in terms of a religious figure, but not very often do we think of him as a human being, and the strength of character, the determination he must have had to perform the Hajj in that time is incredible. Of course, this is strong evidence, together with all the other evidence that we have, that he really was a prophet. Because absolutely no reason why, no earthly reason why a person would do that, unless he was inspired to do so, instructed to do so by a higher being, by the Creator himself. I thought that seeing all of the people from all over the world, every hue, every race, every nationality was represented, was profound. I know that Islam is a global religion, but you really see that at Hajj, where people from every imaginable way of life, walk of life, are the same with their 2 sheets of white for men, and dressed virtually the same for women. It really makes you realise that Islam is so powerful that millions upon billions of people the world over accept it to be true, and there's something quite profound in seeing that in a small way, because it's a microcosm of the whole world at Hajj. I really did feel that Allah was with me at various points. I mean, it was a very difficult experience. Hajj takes you out of your comfort zone, takes you away from your creature comforts, from your convenience, from your mod cons, from your routine, from your sleep, from your 3 meals, and it places you in a really alien and abstract environment. That's very difficult. But with all the difficulty that I felt, especially arriving in Mina, at every point Allah made the journey easier for me. From the really mundane, where I randomly bagged myself a business class flight here and back as it happens, to missing out on a bed in Mina and being placed with the staff, and that was one of the hardest for me, because I ended up sleeping with the workers that serve the Hajis, and to hear their experiences and to see what they go through was quite amazing. And they treated me like family. They were treating me with a lot of respect, because obviously I was there on Hajj and I had this issue where I didn't have a bed. But It's interesting because when I spoke to other people that were in the really fancy tents, their experiences were quite negative. They said it was very hot, it was very crowded, they didn't get a night's sleep, didn't get a moment's sleep. And, my experience was very different. I had quite a comfortable stay in the staff tent. And it's just interesting because I would have thought, well, I did think that I was missing out on all of the things that other people were getting, but it turns out that I wasn't missing out on anything. Every opportunity for collapse, Allah waved away. In the very last moments where we were performing tawaf, I had absolutely no energy. My legs were dead. I had blisters. I was deprived of sleep. I was hungry. And I kept praying for the strength, and Allah gave me the strength to complete the tawaf. In fact, my mum, who prayed a lot more than me, had more energy than me. She was just as exhausted as I was, but at the end of the say, she was more energetic than I was, and I had to keep up with her. And I just thought that was incredible because she is not a walker, she is not fit, but it's a classic saying, but Allah does give you the strength to do what you have to do, and He did. I felt one of the most profound experiences for me was seeing thousands of pilgrims praying as the sun set like this in Arafat. They were hands out, standing up in their thousands, across my camp, and that must have been replicated across thousands of camps for the 1.5-2 million people that were here. They were praying with such sincerity, with such conviction. Some people were crying, some people had anguish on their face, pain on their face. From the depths of their bowels, they were praying to God for whatever it is that they wanted, and I hope that Allah grants their prayers. And it's quite humbling because, although I of course prayed, my prayer was not in any way as desperate as some of the people that I saw, and that was really moving. From all over the world they've come, some rich, some poor, we have no idea what their circumstances are. Happily married, unhappily married, with children, without children, wanting children, no idea what their political views were, what they think about elections, what airlines they came on, what their jobs were. We never ever talked about at any point with anybody about what work they did, because we were all here for the same thing. We're all here to make dua and to remember God, and I thought that was really moving to see that. I'm not gonna lie though, there was difficult times. I had a bit of a crisis of faith as I was here. These people that I've spoken to you about, on the one hand, yes, they were praying desperately and very sincerely to God, which is the ultimate act of abandoning your ego, isn't it? To publicly, desperately seek something from somebody far greater. But on all the other days, I have to say, they were generally just wrestling, shoving, pushing, eking out that little bit of advantage over their fellow man or woman. And I thought that was really disturbing. I found that to be one of the most disturbing things about Hajj. We were in Iran, so a state of purity, and we were supposed to abandon ego. But for most people, from what I saw, they became part of the herd, and in the herd they gave into their animal brain and tried to basically just trample on anybody and push and shove anybody out of the way to get to the banana or the bottle of water or the bus first, even though really in the scheme of things it made absolutely no difference. Where we in our camps were living in complete luxury compared to the people that were here without permits, sleeping on the street, dying of heat exhaustion. I thought that was really quite sad, and I couldn't connect what I believed to what I was seeing. It kept making me doubt whether what I believed was true. If it's true that we are the best community raised by God and that Islam makes you a better person, then what am I seeing around me from the people in Iran in the very purest state they could be? I know that I'm not alone in thinking this, because many people have told me this from Hajj, that this was the most shocking experience that they had, seeing other people and the way that they behave. And you do feel like you're the only one. You feel very isolated and alone. I know I'm not alone, because I'm sure that other people thought that as well, but amongst the great masses of people, pilgrims that were here, I have to say that their behaviour was pretty horrendous. It was embarrassing to me as a Muslim, and not at all what I'd expect. I've seen people behave much better, in football matches, concerts, and that was quite sad. The other crisis I sort of had was looking at the world around me, this holy city and these holy sites, the plain of Arafah, Muzdalifah, and what we believe about these things in terms of the message of the Prophet and the example of the Prophet and the presence of God, especially in Arafah. What I was seeing, I just couldn't connect the two together. I just didn't understand how they fit. I've been to many holy places in the world. I've been to the Wailing Wall, Al-Aqsa. I've been to the Church of Holy Sepulchre, even Vatican City, St. Peter's Basilica, and they are incredibly beautiful places of peace, places of reflection. Yeah, they're full of tourists, I'm not going to deny that, but not squalor and rubbish and filth. And there are, okay, not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people there a day, but thousands upon thousands of people. It's difficult to understand why these sites are so different. If I'm really blunt about it, if I'm honest about it to myself, when I was in Arafah, I really couldn't believe that Allah was closest, the closest as He says He is, and that He would accept our prayers if we asked. I couldn't understand why Allah would be closest here. I mean, it was a massive industrial estate, and a really bad one at that, full of rubbish, concreted over. There was no beauty at all in any of the places that I walked in Arafah. There were barely any trees. Same with Muzdalifah, which was just a massive car park, for want of a better word. I think it actually is a car park, I'm not sure. And generally for Makkah as well, Makkah, look at it, it's like a concrete jungle. It's a monumentally ugly city. When you are in the Haram and look out, it's depressing. It's horrendously ugly. They have built the most ugly and gigantic hotels that you could possibly conceive of. It's like the architects from the Small Penis Convention came along and decided to build gigantic, ugly hotels in the holiest city on earth. And the ugliest of most, of course, is the one that's popping up off the mountain just there. Why is it like this? I don't understand. This is supposed to be a holy place. The Haram, where you can't cut trees and kill living things, has no trees and has no living things. I just don't get it. I'm confused, and this is the crisis of faith I think I had. I just didn't understand. Is this Islam? If this is Islam, how? And what are we all doing here? Why have we come to this pretty horrid place in the heat, in the desert heat, to walk on tarmac and concrete up and down? I suppose Hajj for me, is like a romantic notion, being in the desert, sleeping in Muzdalifah under the stars, in the wide expanse of the desert, going to Arafah, in the plain of Arafah, wow, it's really not like how I imagined. I was warned this, I have to say, by a friend of mine who's been 5 times. He said that it's not like that, you can forget about all of that. I get that, but I don't understand why it has to be so ugly still. I think it made me question why Muslims in their work don't reflect the beauty of what we believe about this place. Surely it's not all about convenience. Surely it's not all about 7-lane motorways and 7-lane roads to Muzdalifah and polluting buses for the pilgrims. Surely there could be a more environmentally friendly, a more sustainable, less ugly way of building a holy city. Perhaps we can preserve some of what the Prophet experienced. You know, date trees, palm trees, living creatures. Does it all have to be destroyed for us to make pilgrimage? And do we really have to leave this by the millions of tons for people to clean up? I don't know. I think for me anyway, Islam is what you believe and what you make in the world around you. You can believe in Islam all you like, but if you're dishonest or horrible, then Islam is not in you. And I think my beliefs came here with me, but they weren't met by anything in reality. And I think I found that very difficult to understand. And I think that is one of the things that caused me to have a bit of a crisis in my faith. I mean, I'm just showing you this. By the way, these are loads of pebbles. I suspect this is where all the Jamarat pebbles go, because I'm at the top of the Jamarat. I'm sitting at the very top of the 3 pillars. There are beautiful mountains that surround Mecca. I read from one of the Arabs that lives here. He said that it's guarded by mountains. Mountains are all being cut up and shredded to make more of these ugly hotels. You know, if the criticism is that Muslims don't have style, I mean, that's definitely evident here. But I'm not quite sure it's a fair reflection of Islam. I mean, if you go to Istanbul, you go to Malaysia, you go to Kuala Lumpur, you go to Oman, you go to many places in the world. The Muslims have created such incredibly beautiful things, which is why I feel so sad that in the birthplace of Islam, in its holiest place, in its holiest city, it's like this. And the places where we're all obliged to go in our lives and spend a large amount of our wealth to go there are treated with such indifference, I suppose, at best, and disrespect at worst. Not just by the people that organise these things and have built all of these things, but even the Muslims. I'm not for a moment absolving Muslims of that, because they're the ones that have thrown their bottles and underwear and rubbish and food all over the place. And in saying that, I'm not trying to be holier than thou. I'm not saying, well, you know, I'm very special because I don't throw rubbish all over the place. I mean, I don't throw rubbish all over the place, but it's not, I have other defects of character which are greater than that particular one. But I'm talking about that particular one because that's connected to the manifestation of Islam in this land. And, you know, I don't understand how people can come on Hajj and plan to be close to Allah and disrespect this holy city and the holy sites that we visited and make dua there in filth. I don't understand. Anyway, the sun's gone. I didn't realise it'd gone. I'm gonna have to make. I scrambled up here on a ladder. I'm gonna have to get down somehow. So I hope you enjoyed my videos, and I hope that for future pilgrims for whom I've also made these videos, there's some information that they find beneficial.